Jeżeli oglądacie tego Q&A całego, to ja tutaj się złożę nie odzywam. Wtrącam się w niektórych momentach, gdy ich wyciszam, więc jeżeli ktoś jest ciekawy, po prostu to wrzucamy. Jeżeli ktoś by chciał sobie to obejrzeć ze mną, w niektórych momentach się wtrącam, w niektórych momentach mówię, że coś jest dobre. Raczej dużo w tym Q&A dobrych rzeczy. Na pewno na plus Octavian, bardzo widać dużo zaangażowania. Widać, że jest graczem, widać, że gra w tą grę. Nawet sam mówi, że 8 godzin w robocie, po czym 4 kolejne godziny gra sobie po prostu w domu. Bardzo na plus Q&A. Będą jeszcze wywiady z nim, również będą na kanale całe. Będę się starał robić również jakieś skróty. Skrót z tego również będzie potem. Na razie to wrzucamy po prostu całe i dajcie to po prostu, w sensie nie dajcie to po prostu, nie to chciałem powiedzieć, tylko wrzucamy to tak właśnie po prostu, żeby wisiało sobie przy okazji na kanale z reakcjami, z tym, że co mi się siku i tym podobne. Więc miłego oglądania. A my idziemy przeglądać patchnoty, które też pewnie niedługo albo już są na YouTubie, więc zapraszam do oglądania i was zostawiam tutaj z tym całym wywiadzikiem. Czy Konami rozjebałem? Nie mam pojęcia.
And I've been doing a lot of the design work on, pretty much everything to do with the 320 expansion. It's not just me. I'm working with a number of other designers, but I've had my hands in a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, it represents a part of Exile 1, like getting the team and resources that it needs to like continue its development and like put out some spicy expansions every 4 months or something you're trying to do now. So it's a pretty exciting thing for PoE 1 fans.
I mean, it's a lot to take on for sure. And there's been some growing pains. We had our whole team was split and merged team, and now we're kind of splitting again, and we're kind of going all over the place. But honestly, what allowed us to do the split this time is Octavian and Andrew, who's not here, but hopefully maybe next time or in the future we were thinking might get a bit too cozy on this couch.
Might be a longer couch.
We'll figure that out. But with Octavian here, stepping up and seizing control and having that X factor design, which is something that I would say Jonathan and I have, and pretty much before I was going back and forth on the game so aggressively, and I was just like, holy, there's so much context switching going on. I didn't feel like I was giving enough time to each product, because I was so spread too thin, as they say, and all this. And so all of a sudden, with Octavian's, just like, let me do it. And so here's where we are, and it's this real awesome story where now, Path of Exile 1, obviously, you started by Chris, you got Jonathan, you got Eric, and obviously they started the project, they started grinding gear, and they had this, obviously they hadn't played the game before because the game was new, right? And so they're developing it and, release it and all this, and now you've got this thing where it's, where Jonathan's obviously still in the picture, but you got this thing where it's kind of like me with Octavian and Andrew, all three of us coming into the company as players through QA, now getting to this point. And so, a lot of what Octavian's getting is the story I got. And obviously, I'm all for that because I got lucky and I'm happy about it and I love my job. And so I'm seeing this happen again. It's exciting. And it's just, it's bloody cool. While also makes things easier for me, I'm way less stressed about it. I'm way less spread too thin. I get to actually focus on the quality.
To jest bardzo ciekawe, nie? Że rzeczywiście to jest prawda, że Jonathan został trochę odsunięty od tego PoE 1 i Octavian przyszedł i powiedział, że chce je kontynuować i rzeczywiście mu dali to zrobić. To jest zajebisty ruch. Co nie wiedzą, Octavian to jest były gracz, streamer PoE 1 od lat w community.
If you're looking at a how did I do for my first time kind of thing, I don't think it could have gone any better, to be honest, and it's good, and obviously keen to talk about it and keen to answer all the questions, and I'm sure hopefully you are too.
Octavian's been super humble and stuff when I've been talking to him, you're doing a good job, this is good content.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. It's huge.
And killing tier 17s, what a champion for Path of Exile players everywhere, mate. Good stuff. But I love that you guys have had that same journey as well, and Andrew too as well, right? It's players become QA, become game designers, become producers and leads on Path of Exile 1 project now. That's it's the game is in the hands of the players, right?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, I still play every expansion for not as much time as I did when I streamed the game for a living, when it was my job to play it for 8 to 10 hours a day, but I still probably put in an unhealthy amount of time. I work on the game for 8 hours and then I go home and play the game for 4, and then I maybe eat something and then go to bed. Yeah, it
Przerobione życie.
hasn't faded, you know? I had a lot of people when I first joined the company asking me, like, do you not play the game anymore? Is it not fun anymore? Like, do you get sick of it? And no, it has not yet happened.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'm excited to talk about all the new stuff, but first, I think we definitely need to talk about ground loot.
Yeah, the loot. There's not much loot on the ground down there.
ground
It's
loot.
I
there.
don't see anything.
Where's
And
the
nothing's
loot?
making it through my filter right.
Ciekawy ruch. Od razu ground ludzie zaczynają rozmawiać, który jest zostanie hot topiciem w sumie w community.
Right now, and has honestly been for a long time in some iteration or another. I remember like as far back as like I was trying to find where, for me, the idea of where some of these things trace back to, and for me it was actually like Legion, like farming low tier maps where you're getting that flat additive loot in the map, and so all of a sudden you're not caring so much about what the regular monsters drop. You're just doing your tier 4 glacier to get Legion and stuff like that. But this whole thing is definitely like it's been a tricky topic to break down because a lot of people have various different issues. Some people are like blaming loot tiles. Other people, like myself, for example, think loot tiles are great. They're just kind of like indicative of the difference between what is dropping from regular monsters in a map and what is being given through what I will refer to as loot tiles, but is generally like flat additive systems, something that adds something, a known quantity, something that's going to be, what you're going to be getting to some extent. And I don't necessarily I think those are a great mechanic for various reasons, but they don't necessarily scale with difficulty in the same way as regular content can. They don't have as much of that element of surprise. And I think trying to like really figure out where a lot of this comes down to, like what's the actual issue if you like kind of peek through the curtains a bit. I think it's just that people are getting their loot in ways that feel like it isn't earned, like it's too disconnected from the gameplay, right? Like you've either got like non-combat drops being really good, things like shipments and the auto mappers, or loot tiles, which have that kind of like preordained feeling, so it's not as directly correlated with the content you're doing. So I'm just curious kind of like how you guys are feeling about or tracking with that, just discussion in an overall sense before we dive into some of the specifics.
Well, there's a couple. Obviously, look, item drops are complicated. This model is complicated. The system is complicated, and it's easy to get lost in the weeds and all that. But honestly, let me simplify it down. Yes, if people don't think it's good enough, it's not good enough. So we'll fix it, right? And now, obviously, these things can take time, but I mean, we'll immediately just to get right in there, because I know what people actually want to know is, what are you doing about it? So let's get to that straight away, which is, at least for now, given that we have, a week till release. But that being said, we can always make loot better mid-league, right? And that's never a problem.
That's never a problem.
It's taking away this problem. But, yeah, look, as I said, if you say it's not good enough, it's not good enough. That's how it is. That's just the nature. If the players, and I mean the audience at whole, is like, it sucks, then it sucks, right? So we'll make it better. So to start with, what we're going to be doing, instead of, there might be some terminology here I need to make sure I acknowledge people don't understand. We will effectively be doubling all the currency.
And this is
That's
from
number
like,
one. From core drops, as we call
drops,
it. Yeah.
Okay.
Not windows, not tile loot, whatever all the terminology is. Obviously, that will then, by consequence, diminish the rewards from window loot and tile loot. Yes, that is intentional.
Just economically speaking, you mean like?
Yes, correct. As in just proportionately, one goes up, the other is now less value proportionately.
Yeah, just kind of like inflation and whatnot.
What else are we doing? We're going to do a bit of a pass on like memory strands was an attempt to try and get equipment. So that's the currency. The equipment, memory strands was an attempt to get equipment drop to be more impactful. When you identify it, I would say that system didn't. It has its purposes, but it didn't land as good as we wanted. So we're just reassessing that, since we're also making changes to the end game around originator maps and all that. Look, they're going to be better. There'll be generally more strands. They'll have higher impact. So identified items via that means will just be better. We're also we're going to see if we can do it in time to make sure that it also doesn't just pick bad base types.
Oh, yeah, that's already been done.
There you go.
Nice.
Sweet. Well, we did a lot of this yesterday.
So base type biasing.
It has yes. So it still can technically, if you get rather unlucky, pick a lower tier base type, but it's heavily biased towards picking higher tier base types to put the memory strands on.
Okay, that's cool. I remember like a long time ago, it was not like that was avoided specifically. It was like, some people might want like a Grove bow or something instead.
I mean,
sure.
I think at this point,
whatever.
yeah, whatever.
Deal with it, I guess. greater good is often the way to look at that. And then look, we're doing some other things. We're going to have ancient orbs, fracturing orbs added to the core drop pools, which should help it a little bit for that more kind of mid to higher tier currency.
Yeah, those are the... Ooh, yeah.
We're doing anything else? So we're doing a little bit of a rebalancing of currency proportions. When I say double currency, by the way, I immediately obviously forgot to mention the important thing. We're not doubling transmutes and orgs. We're doubling the things that matter.
True.
We're doubling the more important currency. We're not you're not just going to get twice as many of the trash. Obviously by Endgame, you don't need the thousands of them that exist already. So, that's the immediate step that we're taking. It's always going to be an ongoing discussion. There's always going to be ebbs and flow to this, always, right? There will be a thing where maybe ground loot is saved, and then a year later we'll be having the exact same discussion with a slightly different twist, and that's fine. That's just how it works. You might even find 6 months from now or something where people are like, bunch of these leagues aren't worth doing because the window loot happens to suck from them or something, These are just how these things go. It's a constant back and forth. It's a constant conversation, and the important thing is just like, there's a problem, fix the problem, don't freaking. And the thing is about it, and because item drops is so complicated, what you do find, and you find it internally, you get lost in these just crazy philosophical conversations for like hours and hours and hours and hours of talking about why and what did we do in the past that did X, Y, and Z, and it is important to discuss those, but sometimes it's also important to just bulldoze through and just start making changes and start fixing the problem. Now, especially with a week till deployment, like we don't want to sully or have all the content to be ultimately, less appreciated because of the fact that, ground drops suck, which, as I said, agree. We're doing what we can now. We'll hopefully do more later, if that's what's needed. Just keep telling us about it. You know what I mean? But for now, we're going to doing a bunch of changes because we can this week. We can test them this week. We can make sure that we're happy with them this week. And if we do anything else, we'll let you know. And then, we'll just keep going. And we obviously got changes to King's March, which is obviously window loot. You've got changes to, the new league, I would say, is one that more favors generally things that aren't in Windows. We'll see. I don't know. Hopefully that's a good start, and we'll see where it ends up, I guess.
Octavian, you were mentioning to me this idea that there's like a lot of white trash items that are dropping, and something about like that kind of effectively becoming currency was kind of the idea there.
Sort of in a way. So like when Mark says doubling the currency that drops, we're not like there is a total amount of weighting in the drop pool, if that makes sense. And we're not adding more weighting to that drop pool. Instead, we are subtracting it from places like, normal basic equipment that every single person is hiding on their loot filter. That weighting is now going instead towards currency items. And like Mark said, specifically towards currency items that aren't like transmutes.
There's technically not more items on the floor. It's just more of the garbage has turned into, ideally now, mid and higher tier currency.
Yeah, so like once upon a time we had this like massive historic quantity rarity buff removal thing that occurred, and some of the numbers on that were like crazy. It was like, this has 1600% increased quantity. So for the skeptics out there, like my father when I was young, who would say, I'm doubling your pay this week. Double nothing's nothing. do you think like doubling the currency is something that has like a pretty appreciable impact?
Pewnie zaśmiał się z tego, co ktoś napisał na czacie, że 2 razy 0 daje 0.
A couple fragments in a scarab?
Double is definitely still double. It's a pretty big deal,
There's a difference between like economic changes
it's definitely
and things that you
I agree. It's definitely different to a 6% glacial hammer buff or whatever's happened historically. It definitely will make a pretty notable difference, but that case there is also an important one, and we were still actively discussing that yesterday, where we were like, there's a little bit of wanting to make sure there's a minimum as well, especially with a certain amount of content. Like, I appreciate that a lot of people are like, there's that juice up here, and there's that, like, here's just your base map. And there's a bit of an expectation that, you should be able to just go in, clear the map, and come out with more. And I generally agree with that. I would say that, the base map is kind of bad right now with respect to some of that. And so, but again, this is that thing where we've got these things we can do now and quite quickly, because we understand the ramifications of them way more. Then there's still all these other conversations we need to have about more like that and how we can achieve that. there's things about how can we've always wanted the idea that the quality of equipment is dropping better, but there's less of it. How can we achieve that? And like, it's quite complicated and quite difficult to do, and it has like all these ramifications down the line, and it just goes and goes and again. So for right now, focus on what we're doing, but we will 100% be looking at things like the minimums, the base mapping experience versus the giga juiced, because the other thing we need to make sure we don't do is often what you can do is you can add something that is more for your average player doing your average regular map, and then that once multiplied by every single league thing ends up being just more and more for the top end, and then it's a bit of a rich get richer situation, and you didn't end up necessarily even benefiting that person. You in fact made them now feel worse from an economic standpoint. So like, yeah, you have that thing where you need to give something there but take away from something here, and that can be dangerous because you might overcook the nerf, you might overcook the buff, you might undercook on either,
There's dużo problemów.
It's scary for sure. So yeah, I mean, even yesterday, to be fair, yesterday I was the one proposing all the craziness. And I was like, whatever, it's fine, let's just do it. Everyone's like, whoa, calm down. And I was like, all right, fair enough, I'm calm. We'll do the safe stuff that we know that's high impact and going to help people now more than anything, and then we'll keep looking at this stuff. So I would expect more changes. Again, I would, depending on what they are, mid-league. Again, I don't like nerfing strategies mid-league. Like, that's a last resort. So yeah, if all of a sudden it's like buff and nerf, and if we can be 100% certain it hasn't like screwed over a bunch of people's current economic wealth, that's good. But look, if it isn't solved, then 329 will have more. So just make sure you keep letting us know, right? Like, that's the important thing. Like, often what happens is like a topic can come up and then be lost because other stuff moves on or whatever. Like, it's really important that, and it's obviously a responsibility on our end to make sure we go, okay, this is still a problem. It's not like just because
we can check in each Q&A on this one. Sure.
Yeah, sure.
It's like a good ongoing one to
for sure.
review. I think it'd be good if you can get like, for the Alk and Go players, like to a situation where they can get two chaos to rub together. But I think like an interesting situation is that you can kind of stack all of this juicing stuff into juicing the normal content of a map, the monsters, and you can't really like scale it, or the scaling has not really any impact on that. It's like something to do with like, it might literally be that like double nothing is nothing situation where you're like, oh, well, through all these scarabs and Atlas stuff, I've juiced these monsters up 1800%, but they ultimately still aren't able to drop anything at that point. Now, how do you make it able to scale? It feels like actually like a really difficult design problem right now. How do you get it actually able to scale basic monsters to make them both challenging and rewarding? Because like, Affliction's various issues aside, something that was cool about that was that you could scale rare monsters to be really freaking hard and really rewarding, and that was actually like a cool thing that maybe needs to be in the game somewhere, and maybe that we've lost.
You see a lot of this thing with the difficulty scaling, where you get that exact argument where people are like, I want a way to be able to scale monsters, but then you also have the audience who are like, I want things to be rewarding without needing those scaling mechanisms.
Got to have a bit of both, I guess.
You do need a bit of both. It's never going to be perfect. You're always in a kind of gray area, and that's where I talk about the ebbs and flows of just things coming and going, and ultimately it's what feels right to as many people as possible. Or there are many options for these things, right?
Yeah, I wonder if we just need some like chunkier options that do just like...
We do,
make those
100%.
Base monsters just punch a bit harder, some like big nodes, big notables on that.
Octavian was specifically pushing for this yesterday, and we're in agreement. It's just a matter of coming up with what that is. And
the hardest, like, Atlas passives and scarabs and that kind of thing to design are usually the ones that are the most broad. Like if you're designing for a particular league mechanic or something, you know what levers and knobs you have to turn. But if you're designing something for the monsters in the map, that's a little tougher. And that's not to say there aren't cool designs there definitely are, but it is one of those things where like we probably can come up with a bunch of cool stuff by 329, but probably don't have it in the next week.
Like, this is like another league situation here, but I wonder if there's like this needs to be keywordfified, like some sort of like native monsters.
Yeah, we do.
Natural inhabitants is what we currently call them. Yes,
we do have that as a concept. Yeah, it's not used super frequently, but there's a few places in there.
But then you also then don't want it to be that then there is a league and the league just feels like absolute trash. So again, a little bit of a fine balance, and because otherwise you're going to start the ebb or the flow on the other side, and now all of a sudden It's like, no, there's no point adding any leagues to my area.
So, I mean, some of your well-designed leagues, I think, can work well with that. Like the Mirage, just as an example, for example.
100%, yes.
If that was in now, Mirage would work really well. They'd be duplicating all those scaled-up, like naturally occurring monsters and adding more of them effectively as well. Like non-loot tiled, but still kind of like randomized monster stuff, which is pretty cool.
Well, as you can see, though, also we've just done a lot of changes, especially to existing systems. Like we're not afraid of. I mean, items a bit more scary because you do need to test it. You don't want to mess that up, you know. But we're not. Octavian's not too afraid. It seems to be able to suggest the crazy things that we.
Bit of fresh blood, bit of vigor for change. That's good.
Sure.
I think we just said even to you this morning, it's like Octavian and I were just like talking absolute madness, I believe I phrased it as, in terms of doing all these crazy things and like, you know, just tipping things upside down and like seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And so we'll just keep doing it. But
I mean, you guys can
it's
cut loose.
exciting.
You're in charge of the game now.
Now is the time. I really love these conversations in this point because now is the time when like we don't plan stuff so far in advance. Hopefully people know that by now. We stay dynamic, we stay agile with that stuff, and right now is when we're discussing what are we doing for 329, what are our major headliners, what are our minor headliners. And
I usually say that start like the week before this one releases. It's like usually it's like, okay, what's the next league look like?
And so right now is the thing where we're putting our effectively our list. What are our tier 1 problems, our tier 2 problems, what are the things we want to achieve, not. And so, you know,
the hardest part is I've already got some stuff that I really want to do in 329 that I'm really excited about, and I can't talk to you about it.
Yes, I know. You guys told me something before the Q&A. I'm like, you can't tell me this right before the Q&A, and I'm not allowed to talk about it. I have to, like, come on. I really want to bring that up.
Yeah, but now you have 4 months of prep for the next Q&A.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready. But my questions are ready for that topic. Well, but wait a while on that one, though. Something that on this ground loot topic that I'm kind of have been sad to see fade away to an extent. It was the loot conversion mechanic on rare monsters. Now, it was obviously really problematic when it was first implemented because it was associated with arch nemesis monsters, and then it had like pinata fishing stuff. But you guys solved that by making it actually properly random. And then even though it was kind of a loot tiled mechanic in the sense that it's like making a specific drop at it, it's random and it doesn't feel like that at all. So it's, I think, loot conversion. So for those who are unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, this is occasionally rare monsters have like a hidden thing where they will take whatever they were going to drop and they change it into something else. And that is like fun and weird and surprising, and weird and like surprising loot drops.
Spike moments.
Yeah. Those are the things you remember. Like, I remember the first time I saw like, you know, they all got
nie może
changed
być za
into
dużo,
currency, or they all
kurde,
got changed
też
into maps, or
boję
some
tego.
weird other thing happened.
That was another big topic.
Teraz do tego wrócimy, co oni dalej mówią, ale oni po pierwsze duplikują dropy na normalnych mapach i chcą zabrać z góry dużo, czyli dalej będzie podobny loot na podobnym poziomie, ale będzie można dużo taniej zacząć, żeby do niego dojść. Czyli nawet głupia mapa Archetypes będzie dropiła dużo więcej, plus oni chcą zrobić konwersję itemów, których rzeczywiście je odfiltrowujemy, ale będą chcieli zabrać gdzieś z góry, żeby nagle nie było tak, że i tak mi się wydaje, że oni to spierdolą, i tak mi się wydaje, że to będzie zbyt popsute. Wydaje mi się, że będzie ogromna inflacja i w tych party będą dropili horrendalnie duże ilości itemów. Ale ludzie, którzy grają sobie mniej, są na mniejszych tierach, nie używają takich mechanik, będą otrzymali więcej dropu. Co prowadzi do tego, że itemy będą droższe i dalej nie będzie ich na nie stać. Więc to nic prawie nie zmieni. Overall plus tylko to, że ludzie będą mieli rzeczywiście fajniejsze dropy.
Fundamental challenge of a loot-based video game is getting players to, you know, care about, you know, the different pixels on their screen, and like this set is more exciting than that set.
Oh yeah.
And like that's the trick that as game designers you're trying to play on people, and it's not an easy trick to play.
Yeah.
And you know, like one small thing, like Mark said earlier, that we are doing for 328 is the ancient orbs and fracturing orbs to the global drop pool, because now there's another shiny tink that might occur in the form of the fracture orb.
Yeah, but we want more giga tinks.
Yes, that is certainly not the extent of it. It's
you want
just
the thing where there's like 50 tinks overlapping all at the same time, and your sound channels are like, I don't know how to deal with
and
this.
Just like, the unexpected and the weird, that's the thing that I want to really drive home. Is like, I want you guys to come up with like 10 new weird things that rares can drop, because it makes rares like matter again. It makes them interesting again. Like, I'm excited about a rare because it could do something I've never seen before, and that's
one of my favorite. Like,
after 10,000 hours or whatever.
If we design something like that and it's a success and it's like a meaningful new niche in the game, that was one of my favorite things as a player. You know, chasing those weird niches to try and find some, you know, strange corner of the economy that I could leverage. And I want to add more of that.
Great, yeah.
We will. It's on the mind for sure. Hopefully by 329 we've got a good set of that.
So potentially some more loot conversion,
Yeah,
kind of
but
weird explosions and stuff.
There's kind of things in the meanwhile. You also then, when doing that, don't want to then just make the map boss feel valueless and all that stuff. So it's a little bit more to make sure we get right. Because
Map bosses could be a good place for that sort of thing,
Łask,
honestly, like
też
the weird
łask.
stuff like
in
that.
theory, you do it on both.
Yeah.
Could be distinct
Oh, yeah.
pools on
Do
each. Who knows?
dare you.
But then you don't want to create an environment where the map boss is only so rewarding that you just run, kill the map boss, and repeat. Or maybe you do. I don't know. Who knows?
Just making everything good.
That's the goal.
It's all good. We'll get there 100%. I have no
Yeah.
lack of confidence in that factor, like for sure. So
So you touched on King's March. So there's like King's March is like a big kind of like grouping of the same issue there, where it's like the gambling, the shipments, and the mappers, and those giving some of the most rewarding loot right now. It's just not from combat gameplay ultimately. And this was something I was going to bring up later, but I'll bring it up here now. It makes sense that like I think I like King's March. A lot of people like the King's March shipments and stuff like that. But I think over time, it's definitely started to feel more and more like what I was initially concerned about, which is that it'd be like daily quests, mandatory chores. Exactly.
chore.
Yeah, busy work sort of stuff. For loot that you're not really earning, it's disconnected from your gameplay and that. I was surprised to think about the crop and ore change. It was like, it's a pretty subtle thing, but it actually seems like that might be kind of impactful. Do you think that's going to make a big difference though?
I mean, it does make a big difference, yes, because you have to now engage with the league and be invested in the league in order to now get the printed currency.
Yes.
So at least there's that. I understand that's, a bit of a currency nerf to everyone, but hey, look, it's window loot, so, we're compensating for that in the rest of the game as well. So, with all the different
I think this
leagues.
is a hit
But
a lot of people are willing to take. It's like, because I think for King's March especially, it was something there, it's like, technically it's optional, you don't have to do it, but like everyone is.
yeah, it's not
So
really.
obviously
It's not really though, is it?
optional, right?
No.
The swap is sort of mental health address.
Yeah.
Because, when you could just grow crops with nothing but money, then it doesn't really feel
not
optional, right?
optional.
Because
Yeah,
you're making
exactly.
gold whatever you're doing. So you have gold to give to King's March, and they can just turn that into money for you.
Yeah. That was a quote that I picked out from somewhere that I
Zaraz będzie trudniej
entertaining,
pisać
where it's
statki w takim
someone's
razie.
like, my King's March mappers are getting better currency per map than I do, so I give them all my maps and I farm gold for them. I'm like, oh, that's just tragic, isn't it? It's not really where you want to be.
So now, and what you need to figure out is, does the
Coś nie
doubling of
zrozumiałem.
currency double the King's March mappers amount of currency?
Well, it doesn't currently.
no, it doesn't.
Well, there you go. That's probably part of the solution.
Czyli teraz
there,
normalnie-
just kind of accidentally.
Trzeba będzie zbierać też kropy jakby z map i dopiero wtedy będziemy mogli przejść statki po kropach na mapach. Już nie będzie tak, że po prostu wysyłamy... Okej, to bardzo dobra zmiana.
There's obviously more we can do in due time, but
Dodaję kurencji.
you also don't want to take away the thing that a lot of people do.
Aha, a wcześniej było tak, że currency było za rzeczy na tym. Ej, dobra, to jest bardzo dobra zmiana. To jest bardzo mądra zmiana.
And you don't have to feel so penalized or bad about not having it. That's probably the direction to really go ultimately. How that will present itself, TBD, but we'll just have to see how the ore and crop change is actually quite a big deal, and we'll just have to see how that goes.
Yeah,
so.
it's like it seems like it'll have a surprisingly big impact for just a pretty simple thing. It's like, oh, we should have done this in the first place. It's like,
Yeah.
it's funny. It was just a bit backwards, I suppose. And I'm interested to see how much change the port stuff you've done is, because you've moved around where rewards come from ports, made them more specific, because it was pretty autopilot before. Like, I just used the same port again and again. You just dumped all your crops in one port. There wasn't really much to think about there. But now it seems like you're actually going to maybe be a little bit of strategy there about where you're sending what.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. I'm sure players will develop something of a meta. I think one thing that we didn't note as well is that, like, in the live stream footage, is that the what is it called? The quota? Like the port wants a certain
favorite
resource.
I think that was
resources.
shown,
Yeah,
You can re-roll them
that
on
has much more of an impact than it once did on the shipment that you'll return, and you can also re-roll that.
Yeah. It's hard to see like the impact of that sort of thing, so hopefully it's like something that's like pretty noticeable, I guess.
I mean, that is a system that was intended to promote that you vary up the different ports you send to.
Yeah. So hopefully that
So like
is the
even
case
even
now.
if we've shuffled stuff around, you're still going to have a non-random meta generally, right? There'll be a certain port that gives you what you want, and there's choice within that, and that's great. But yeah, you need a kind of more random, and that's what that system was trying to do. It just wasn't doing it very well. So make it more impactful and keep doing so if we need to.
Vaguely similar to this idea of like getting the best loot from non-gameplay was the major boss drops coming more from reliquary keys than the actual boss, and those dropping globally as well. Is that something you're thinking about at all? I feel like a lot of people feel like it circumvents like the point of the boss, and
it
devalues
does.
that a lot.
It does for sure. We're not doing anything about that right now that I'm aware of.
you had
But
Not in 328, but I actually personally also share this gripe. So
Agreed.
it is a thing that will be brought up with Andrew and the other designers working on PoE 1.
Będą chcieli wywalić specyficzne uniki z bossów z kluczy. To też jest dość ciekawe.
We'll see whether we get to that reality or not. Like that's something that other people have strong opinions on as well. I'm not going to unilaterally say like, yes, we're doing this.
Yeah. So, is there a reason why like the boss doesn't just drop the keys that give those things or something? Like, I guess they would need a bunch of different keys or something. Might be the issue there. You need like a reliquary key of Shaper or something.
Yeah, that would necessitate a lot of base items, but that might be fine.
We do have a lot of little things like that, don't we?
Te klucze powinny zostać z bossów.
We do that at some point. I
I
swear.
feel like it.
I thought we had.
Don't we have the
ringing bells or something?
bosses
like,
drop
maybe
their
it was
own keys
discussed
for
at
their
one
own
point?
uniques? Wasn't that the point of that?
Just, I guess it didn't. happen, or-
I could just be tripping.
Well, Valdo maps do work differently to the reliquary keys in that regard.
I need to look into this again because
Yeah.
I was under the impression that we intended for that to not be the case. Like I thought we had solved this in the past, but like Fever Dreams and all that.
Yeah, I was
Too
like
many
unsure,
changes.
but then
I'm
it
like,
was like,
didn't we solve this like 3 years ago? I'm just like, I swear.
yeah, that question, I was surprised when that question was sent to me. So I was like, I thought you guys
The
had addressed
perils
that,
of
but no.
continual development.
I'm gonna go look at that after this because I am convinced that I'm like having mega deja vu here. I swear. I thought that we had reliquary key and then all the boss specific reliquary keys and those gave the boss uniques and the base one doesn't because we didn't want them to give the boss uniques and thus I don't know.
That question was sent to me by a juicer, so I was like, oh, I take their word from that one. So
I don't know. Maybe maybe something slipped up and something went wrong there. I'm gonna go have a look at it after this.
Tylko to rodzi inny problem. Ludzie zapłacili za to, że stworzyli takie nagrody na tych kluczach i będą musieli się do nich wszystkich odezwać i zmienić w te nagrody w takim razie.
aspect of ground loot that I want to touch on for today is rare gear drops that just ultimately they're just not shown on filters because they're either very rarely good or they just aren't even able to be good. Like it's not even physically possible for them to be competitive in many cases outside of some things like energy shield gear or suppression gear or whatever. There are some cases where it's like, oh, you can never compete with like influenced modifiers or other random like where you can jam things together, create the sort of stuff players can make via crafting and other systems. So I have a few kind of questions about like that. It's something I've talked about, a few times in the past. It's like it's always been a thing. Like, how do we make rares matter? I'm curious first, why isn't the tier system being used in Path of Exile 1 for rare drops?
Kind of is.
The
Memory strands are a technically more granular version of that.
Okay.
Which I mean, look, we've considered this, we've discussed this for sure, and this is part of the whole drop less but better. It's just it comes with these so many different consequences that we have to then work our way through. And the memory strands was our kind of way of trying to achieve that. And as I said, it didn't hit the mark for sure, and so we're now trying to make it better. But and I understand that that's like they're from originator maps, not like game wide, which I don't necessarily mind either. That it's like at the end of the end game is when the stuff starts happening. But yeah, I mean, I'd first like to see if that can hit the mark first. That being said, there is just going to always be that there are crafting systems and drops at odds with one another. And you have so many people who are in favor of one versus the other. That being said, we don't want to also just be like flooding the ground. You know how much people can juice. You don't want to just be now just flooding the ground with rare items, and it's just like, oh my god, there's just too much stuff everywhere, and I don't know, like.
I was having a fantasy earlier about this. I was like dreaming about it and daydreaming about like, what would it be like if Path of Exile 1 all of a sudden dropped like maybe only a few rares a map, and I was like excited to identify and look at them. It's like that would be such a crazy change from the amount of stuff that drops right now.
I think that game mode is called Ruthless.
Well, maybe.
Whoa, man. Whoa, it's your first time in the Q&A. Calm down. No. I mean, he's technically right, but we can solve that. But the discrepancy between average map and pinnacle, right? We obviously then have to assess, like, how can you get, if you can get 1,000 times more value out of your map, how do you then not go from 3 to 3,000 items? And we would need to address that because, like, quantity is just quantity right now. So there's a lot of, like, thinking about how that system can translate into that. Because, like, I mean, at that point, the entire map would have to, like, kind of understand its value of items already dropped and then kind of stop. You know, there's something kind of a bit
like
weird and complicated about it that I don't quite know how to achieve.
Tricky thing to nail down, but I wonder if there is a world in which such a thing is possible. Like, just, for rares to kind of be, like, I guess rare ultimately, but not to be not to be ruthless in the sense of it being like an item scarcity situation, but just that, like, oh man, if we're dropping 500 rares and we're not looking at them through the filter, then, you know, if those were rolled into 5 rares and, you know, they were 50 times better.
One of the things, and again, this is something that was discussed and not going into 328 because it has a lot of ramifications that we would need to interrogate for 329. But, like, an extension of the memory strand changes was like, well, what if we just, you know how the drop conversion stuff that you're talking about for rares, like, what if we do some drop conversion thing where sometimes rares will drop way fewer rare items, but they'll drop super memory strand heavy items, and they'll drop a few of them, and, like, that sort of thing. It is definitely on our minds. I will say one of the things that contributes to this experience, particularly in keepers, was just the strength of the breach tree, the strength of the Genesis tree, and while that's being rolled into core, it has been adjusted. Yeah.
I mean, while those windows they're generally going to be showing you just, like, effectively every rare item that's presented there is many thousands of rare items that are on the ground.
Yeah.
And how is that ever going to compete as well? So then even
to make the ground items like that, I guess, would be how you compete, and that's what I'm curious to see what that would look like.
this.
Cieszy mnie, że zaadresowali tą zmianę w ogóle w tym lucie i ta rozmowa to jest jeden z najlepszych Q&A, które widziałem do tej pory, szczerze mówiąc. Naprawdę tego, że nie ma Juske, od razu to się wydaje takie dobre. The fuck?
We do on accident sometimes. We do try to avoid it as much as possible. And a lot of these things are really hard to come back from if you mess it up. If we just make, like, if everyone's just getting, like, 95th percentile items off the ground and, like, the first tier 1 map they run, you know, you like the entire, like, itemization of the in-game systems just down the drain. So, like, if we, you know, that's an extreme. That would assume we mess up bad.
Yeah.
But that's what knee-jerk reactions result in, right?
I believe in you. You guys have some experience now with the idea of, like, converting rarity into tiering up an item, like making it better. It's like, you know, as the rare kind of feeds into it. And that aligns nicely with the idea of this being something that grows over time with juicing.
I 100% want to do that. As you move up
tiers and juice it, and your map's got, like, jumped from, you know, your average 100 rarity to 500 rarity or something, those items start to become a fair bit better rather than just being, because the way it is now effectively is just more white items being converted into rares, right? And
you get the cool thing with them bosses because they have generally more inherent rarity, drop better gear, and rares drop better gear, and, you know, it's not always better, but, like, you know, the average is going to be significantly better, and I love that. I actually really like that, and I'd like to do it. So
okay, that's good to hear.
We'll just keep trying to get there.
So on the issue of, like, normal rares not really even being able to compete with, like, crafted influence, recombinated stuff, like,
because
Exile one is, it's just got too much cool stuff now. It's not like you want to remove that. So the question is then, like, how do you make rares compete with that stuff? Obviously, like, just having really well rolled stuff can work, and maybe only for specific kind of item categories like energy shield gear and things like that. But I am a big fan personally of things like temple modifiers and stuff like that that are a little bit weirder. Now, that generally belongs in specific content, but I wonder if there's stuff like that you can do. Obviously, we're talking about the memory strand kind of making the base matter, and I quite like overqualityed items for that point as well. Is this something you're thinking along these lines of, like, other things you can do that maybe fit more in general content? Maybe just seeding the idea, if nothing else.
is probably stuff. It's kind of hard to think of exact things
Panowie, kończy mi się
on
sikówce.
the spot.
It kind of goes back to your previous comment about, trying to make more
Yeah.
like more meaningful tinks, I guess.
Yeah.
Finding more axes to make gear matter in a way that's different from a different piece of gear mattering is like one of the most fundamentally difficult things in designing an item-based game, but it is also one of the most important.
The other thing is to not have dropped items be unrecognizable as well, though. You can't get too crazy with them.
Yeah.
You want them to still feel relatively fundamental, and then you craft all the crazy.
Yeah.
Which are at odds again with one another, right? Those two things, because crazy often can mean power. But yeah, like you don't want to just have every item, you just have to hover and know what are the 8 different things that could be considered. And I understand that the item filter can do a lot of that work, but then there are those not using the item filters and not using different types of item filters, and now there's just this insane complicated web that they might have to deal with. So you still want the ground loot to ultimately feel fundamental, recognizable, and something not overly complicated, and then the skill ceiling is what enables the complication of like the knowledge, what leagues am I doing, how am I interacting with all that. So it's that real difficult spot where you want to find really interesting stuff, but stuff that's also fundamental and feels core and isn't overly complicated, and that's why it's hard. It's really easy to come up with all kinds of crazy stuff.
Awesome.
It's coming up with the simple, more grounded things that are just real tricky, for sure. And,
It's probably
Szczerze jestem zaciekawiony, zaniepokojony i targają mną emocje, kiedy słyszę o tym lucie, bo albo to będzie giga zajebiste i dojdzie do jakiegoś takiego wyrównania, albo okaże się taką sraką, że oni zaleją rynek po prostu currency. Ale w sumie, czy to jest lepsze niż to jest aktualnie? Raczej tak, bo potem będą mieli czas, kiedy będą mogli to dalej kontynuować i zmieniać.
that I was pushing for. Excellent.
You always start with the...
You want to start with the thing that people are
Of course,
feeling
100%.
like, oh,
yeah.
I can't relax and listen to this other stuff until I'm reassured a bit.
But yes, would love to talk about it. Very excited.
Absolutely. Yeah, excellent. Mirage, the new league that has been showcased and announced here, is a bit of a spicy and interesting one, iterating upon a lot of different concepts and ideas here. It seems like the execution here is really about like a greater than I think we've ever seen, maybe, level of integration with existing content, like synergies between content, to the point like you're actually making it so that other content in this is doing something unique, which I don't think we've ever done before. So
that's one of the things that's been most exciting about it to me. Like, just to spoil one more example, I guess, that we didn't give in the live stream.
cool.
The way that it interacts with Delirium, for instance, is you can drop a currency which can be used in a cluster jewel to change the enchantment of that cluster jewel, but it doesn't change what's on the cluster jewel. So you can theoretically roll like a shield or a block cluster jewel. You can roll a block cluster jewel into X notable that you want. You could then even fracture it and then use the new currency to change it over to being, I don't know, a brand cluster jewel or something, assuming those are both in the same size cluster jewel.
Wild.
And then you can roll a brand notable along with your block notable or whatever.
Wait, did I miss where you said, like, can you do this just once, or...
Będziecie mogli łączyć jedne klastery z drugimi, czyli na przykład zrobić sobie klaster medium, AOE plus, nie wiem, cokolwiek, brandy. Możecie połączyć te dwie nody w jedną, przez to, że sfrakturujecie tamto. To jest popierdolone. To jest tak duży build diversity się przez to robi. To będzie odklejone strasznie.
A whole bunch of, and wouldn't it be cool if we could go back in time and add this one other thing to this mechanic?
Designing crazy is easy. No, it's not. No, that's underselling it. But I don't know. That's exciting for sure.
Yeah, that's wicked. So, like, was this the initial goal on the outside, or was just something happened kind of on accident? This idea of making Mirage really like interact with and amplify the existing content in the game.
The very, very initial goal was I like how some of my favorite designs for League mechanics are like Delirium and Affliction and stuff like that, even Sentinel to a degree, where it's like it augments content. And I was like, well, what if we could do that, except it augments the area? and not the league, you know, not like just the monsters.
And then out of that grew is like
Yeah, and then later we, you know, because that is a good base, but you need a good league mechanic needs a bunch of extra, like, you know, bells and whistles, I suppose.
yeah, it's always just been kind of like, oh, it accidentally kind of juices this other mechanic or for whatever reason. So that is that's a whole new level there. It was interesting. So I played through like the campaign with this league, and it almost felt like some sort of like best of Path of Exile league. It's got this like legacy league kind of feel where you're like, there's just strong boxes and shrines and legions and stuff everywhere. It's like, I feel like I'm playing a juiced endgame version of the campaign more so than
the epic thing of
before.
it was a thing where like this is a thing I would say that is like almost a bit undersold almost, where it's like the impact this league has on the, like, normally you'd think, okay, so there's like an extra little bit of mud flats with some monsters like as a second replicated area. It's like,
No, wytłumaczę dla tych, którzy nie wiedzą albo nie widzieli tego w zwiastunie. Podczas robienia aktów będziecie mieli teraz mechanikę ligową, czyli tego Mirage. Obok tej mechaniki ligowej będzie pojawiała się dodatkowa rzecz. Skrzynki, esencje, wszystkie mechaniki ligowe, które macie w danym momencie, będą się pojawiały obok tej mechaniki ligowej nowej. Więc podczas aktowania będziemy mieli dużo więcej esencji, skrzynek, bardzo dużo rzeczy.
with the league and the campaign, it's probably one of the most like interactive ones, and it probably adds the most amount of content out of any maybe that we've done
Tak, żebyś
before.
tą mechanikę Mirage, dokładnie.
Also a bunch of handcrafted campaign-specific wishes that you know they fall away at the end game because they're not really powerful enough to be competitive with the end game juicing wishes and that sort of thing. But they'll, you know, give you a binding orb or two on completing like the very like Act 1 or Act 2. There's very early ones that can give you that. There's ones that give you like a whole bunch of chromatic orbs. There's ones that give you, you know, a unique weapon or
Stuff you need.
something like that. You know, things that are really useful in the campaign. Even later in the campaign, there's one that'll give you a 5-link. And then those will fall away as you get to the end game. So where they're not nearly as relevant.
Yeah, it's normally I like always interact with the league mechanic, even if I'm getting over leveled. This is one where I think like it's to the point. It's just to the point where you like do the really cool looking ones, and this is my advice: do the really cool looking mirages that have like a bunch of extra mechanics with it, and leave the other ones. You know, just like you'll be able to take it or leave it here, even if you're a player who normally does them all or
Check
you know,
the
normally
mechanics,
skips them.
check
Just
the
kinda-
wish, do it or move on.
Yeah,
Also-
like the wishes sometimes are unique, and
A detail that I wanted to make sure was known is so the Mirage in the I call it the overworld and the recreate. Those are the internal terms we've been using.
Okay.
But the Mirage around the object in the initial area, not the one that you've recreated, does have a lot of extra, you know, monsters from the Alpha Root, as Mark was saying in the live stream. Those monsters are purely additive, so they don't displace existing monsters or anything like that. Which does mean that even if you never enter a Mirage, you're just kind of killing more stuff in the campaign than you would otherwise. Like
yeah,
there's
a
just
lot of
extra monsters.
there.
Probably how you were so over leveled.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I think it was like 10, 15 levels over pretty consistently since like Act 1. It's been like, oh man, I better skip over a few zones. And then I'm like, oh, well, Mirage looks pretty tempting.
There's there's a bunch of kind of cool stuff as well. Like I know you mentioned as well the other day of you know, the way the Mirage's area is generated. Like it when you have a circle, you got a circle, right? And so in claustrophobic maps, a lot of that circle's in unwalkable space.
Yeah, we've had
the
this
way that
issue
the
before.
area of Mirage generates is it flood fills walkable space until it occupies an amount of space.
That's clever.
Which means on a map by map basis, it's relatively consistent.
I noticed that you solved that issue. I was like, oh, you guys have done it.
Yeah. was Expedition map, yeah?
Our programmers put a lot of work into that. So they did a good job.
But even then, you've got now you can immediately think of that and go, well, hold on. If I'm in like say toxic sewer and it flood fills, I'm going to be so far away from the portal. Well, there's just a button to take you back to the start of
Yes.
it.
You guys are getting good at this, anticipating my quality of life complaints.
And it's got fancy effects when it teleports you.
Normally, like in the past, I'd come here and I'd play for a bit and I was like, you guys need to make a quality of life for this. And then, like, no, you guys have done it already.
Part of doing quality of life changes, even though sometimes they're insane and sometimes they're, you know, not as crazy, you know. By doing it in every patch and holding ourselves accountable to doing it, we then often get like, well, hold on, what would we be doing next league for the new content? And
you've rewired your thinking, I think, on this.
Yeah,
I feel
100%.
like I've noticed that at least that mandate to like do 10 quality of life fixes. I think
Yeah,
it's like,
Another really
you're
minor
looking for them now.
Another really minor thing is the minimap in a Mirage area is always fully revealed, so you know where you need to
yeah.
go.
I didn't even notice, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just like little things like that.
It is a actual terrain generation recreate, so to speak. So you know, you wouldn't get lost either way, I suspect, if you were kind of remembering what happened anyway. But you know,
I mean, in my memory, maybe.
bit of
Jeśli ktoś to ogląda na YouTube, to od razu będzie mógł sobie włączyć przetłumaczenie, więc będzie miał to po polsku. To też jest w sumie spoko.
It's a funny weird mechanic in the campaign too, because like quite often you're like, it spawns near the boss. You do the boss in the Mirage. You pick up the quest item from the boss in the Mirage.
Yep.
And you're like, I'll just go.
A lot of that suspiciously just kind of worked.
Yeah, it just
which
works. And
made
it's like,
me feel
that's
really,
weird. I like
really
it. It's
suspicious.
so
like there's surely there's some bug we're overlooking here, but it's been pretty thoroughly tested at this point. It just kind of works.
I've been intentionally trying to like be like, oh, what if I do it this way? Being like a little cheeky, like, oh yeah, what if I kill PoE in here and get the thing?
I mean, it has had some bugs. Don't get me wrong. Like there was a bug where like if the Mirage didn't generate far enough, you could click an entrance that's supposed to take you to somewhere else, and now you're just outside the Mirage and you can't move, and that's not particularly good.
I haven't run into any of those things yet, so you've been polishing it out pretty well. High level of polish a week out.
Polska górą.
On this visit,
That's
so
good.
I've noticed. So you guys, the team division maybe is working well there.
Yeah, because by having ultimately Octavian and Andrew focused on PoE 1 entirely for that whole span, and we were obviously all discussing. I loved generally our design meetings are at like 6 p.m. and then they'd just run until we, really look outside and we're like, oh, it's very dark. We probably should have gone home. But
The sun is rising.
yeah, we got these just cool, awesome like evening design sessions and that going on. But then those guys just were cranking from the get-go, like
Awesome.
and as opposed to like kind of fighting for resources between the two, we laid out exactly here are the resources you got. If you need more, just tell us. But like work with that for now, get everyone working straight away. And I mean, obviously it sounds obvious. It's like, that's how it should be. But you got the 2 games, especially it can be a bit hard. Like, where do you go? What happens? Gets a bit crazy. So, as much as that sounds like, well, obviously it should work that way. It isn't as simple as it often sounds especially with passion projects, because, you always, especially as a designer, you want to work on both things. You want to know what's this cool thing going on over there. I want to be part of that. So you have to also be able to kind of separate yourself and go, I'm just going to acknowledge I don't know what's going on, and when I see the live stream for the other game, I'm going to learn a bunch of new stuff. And so
that's one of the benefits of it. I get to go into PoE 2 releases with next to no idea. It's like, oh, cool. What I get to be in the player base, getting the exciting reveal again.
That being said, he's like sitting amongst the other designers. We're all still in a collective, and everyone can hear what everyone else is doing, and so you can kind of still hear stuff, and people will still ask you questions about things that you've worked on before. So real cool. But I know. But getting off Mirage. But I know we talked about some of the stuff in the campaign, but I just wanted to also give you an opportunity to talk about that cool Endgame thing you mentioned boss, and I got it and remembered another exciting thing.
Which Endgame thing with the boss?
The whole map is a Mirage.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Wait, what?
That is one of the. So it augments league mechanics, but it can also augment a few things that are like technically not league mechanics. Like it can augment a map boss, and it will cause it to have some. You know how like when you free an essence monster, there's effects going on. Like maybe there's fireballs flying out, so it'll cause it to have effects similar to that. So it's a little more challenging. But the upside is when they drop a map, there's a chance that map is fully miraged. Like it's got a mirage in the map that is covering the entire thing. So you get 2 maps for your map instead of 1.3 map for your map, or however much.
The reveals keep coming. I didn't know about that.
There you go.
Wild. I was going to ask because you've got this whole like, it's using the other mechanics, and it's doubling the other mechanics, and it's adding extra monsters to your map. It's like, how do you like make sure that the actual league mechanic still feels rewarding there? Like, you guys are going a little nuts there. So you've got Mirage maps. There was adding supports to skills.
Oh yes.
Okay, so which I almost forgot about.
The gin coins.
View gems.
Yeah, it's interesting. Don't know what to make of that one yet. Pretty wild.
At odds with corruption. Just to explain how some of this works. So it corrupts the item is at odds with either +1 level or quality, as gems do. Because adding even a level 1 support and getting the right support is a pretty good amount of power creep. And so it being at odds with corruption allowed it to be that strong. If you could do
it
both,
gets to
it's a
compete
bit
against the cost on
excessive.
power a little bit. Yeah.
And it isn't fully random. It will look. It takes into account the supports which can support that skill, and it can only roll in those,
That's,
and also can
good.
only roll in the color of the coin. So if
Okay.
you're using a red coin,
you
you
get
get a
some-
red support that works for that skill.
Yeah,
So you're not,
influence over it
you're
there.
not going to get like faster casting on a double strike or something.
To spoko,
brutality
spoko.
is a valid support for Wild Strike, so you could get that, which isn't particularly
so don't
good.
use the red one on there, probably.
Well, LE damage to the
can
tax
risk
is
it.
also red
That's
and can go on
true,
Wild Strike.
multi-strike.
Is LE damage to the tax the modern name of?
Ed West, yeah.
Yes.
I think it's-
But regardless, like there are, undesirable outcomes, but all of them are technically functional.
okay, all right. And then there's these uniques that you can like clean up as well. You do one of those restoration YouTube channels, like I found this sword and it's like just a big pile of rust. Let's restore it.
You just scrub it down with the gin coin, get all the rust off. No, it's more magical than that.
Excellent. And I don't know if this was really shown, but there's a lot of like. Is this just the campaign or is it Endgame as well? There's like a lot. There's these like silver gin caches and gold gin caches and.
That's all points. So
cool.
when you're in a Mirage,
Those are juicy.
there's like there's packs of enemies that are specific to the overworld encounter and packs that are specific to the Mirage encounter. They're actually different monster varieties. And when you're in the Mirage, when the Mirage enemies spawn, they will rarely spawn with a cache, and that cache is just a chest that has pretty good loot generally. Like rare items, maybe currency, maybe div cards, all various things.
Sounds wicked juiced. Awesome.
Yeah. Putting some. There's so much. I love the amount of like level of detail gone in, and as you were mentioning, it's a league that is multiplying other leagues, and obviously it has its own thing, and even
This Legacy
kind of a
2.0
cool
bez kitu.
storyline, and it's grounded, and it's got, obviously a boss, which is awesome as well. But it's got the thing where, how cool is that?
Suresh is very cool.
Oh man.
How cool is that? Yeah, let's just start the fight. Let me just rip off my head real quick.
Just turn my spine into a star.
I don't need this.
I'm gonna.
Who came up
It's a
with
tiny.
that
I
one?
don't want to spoil much of the fight, but a tiny minor spoiler is when you kill him, his head lands and sticks in the ground, and then you can talk to it.
Whoa,
He gives like
that's
lore.
okay.
Obviously.
Obviously, yeah, it goes without saying.
But even then it's I really it is probably one of the more challenging things. It's just like, okay, it could just multiply damage and life or drops or something. It could just multiply quant or rarity, I get it. But it's that labor of love of doing a specific interaction with everything it can modify that really is like, wow, this is cool. There's so much level of detail to this and depth to this. That's quite impressive. But it's an undertaking for sure, and I'm really glad you guys did
high
it.
effort.
Like, yeah.
Good on you.
I mean, I would want to do more if I had more time.
Something I've seen in chat, I'll just kind of like butt in here in between topics, is Trial of the Ancestors just kind of getting asked about. I had forgotten about it. It's been a while. And I think it was like was this the one that it's coming sometime? We're trying to.
Oh, look, it's still on the list.
Yeah.
It's not on our most recent thoughts.
This is a Steam backlog sort of situation. Trial of the Ancestors.
Kind of is, yeah. I mean,
Udajcie to, to
we're getting
proszę.
more and more of these, I feel like, over time, where stuff we
O,
want to
usiadł
improve,
Mark.
enhance, re-add, or
Koniec.
whatever. Look, I get it. Same answer as last time, pretty much. Like,
Rozchodzimy się.
it'll get its day. We just don't know when. It requires more work to re-add than you might think. And it's easy for that to then get in the way of a lot of other stuff that we want to do. And yeah, I get it. It's just, at the end of the day, value and resources, and that's it, really. That's all there is to it. So
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the well of cool stuff that we want to add to the game is infinitely deep.
yeah.
It's good for that. Was Mercenaries one of these ones that was like coming back or something in some way? Like I kind of
We will do
Oh,
that. We will do that again.
Mercy wrócą.
I always hate saying when we're going to do stuff because that's, people
don't
want a
do that.
time. What does
Dobra.
that mean if there's no
Czyli
time?
wrócą.
It's just this nebulous, infinite. One day it will be here. But I still, like to be clear on when we intend for something to come back or not. So yeah, we still want to do it.
Back pocket for a rainy day.
We'll get there. Honestly, we will get there. There's not too many big things that are like still pending that we've done before that we want to re-add. So but just timing. But again, like there's been so much growing pains with the different 2 projects and stuff. We're only going to get more efficient at this. We've got more of the staff than ever. We're still hiring. Like we'll get there. You know, if Octavian wants more people, Octavian and Andrew, they want more people on that for PoE 1. We'll hire more. We'll give them the resources they need. You know,
Cudowna
like
informacja,
whatever we need to
naprawdę.
do, we'll do it, and we'll just keep going forward. So
Kurwa,
yeah,
to
it's
chciałem
all looking
usłyszeć
up.
też.
It's all great days. So
All right, I just want to say though, like I feel like maybe you could get a little bit more of this stuff done if you didn't do things like make the Reliquarian, okay, like and commit to changing its passives every single league.
Okay, yes, that
Co powiedzieli, że jeśli Octavian będzie chciał więcej ludzi na PoE 1, to zatrudnią kurwa więcej ludzi i będą to dalej ciągnęli.
that already exist, right?
Yeah,
like
but
we have all of these uniques.
I was talking to Andrew about this though, because it's like, oh man, you actually have to consider like against the uniques that you can like double it up with, against like all of the other ones in there. It's like yeah, you can make an acceptable list.
Czyli te leaki odnośnie tego, że jest oddzielny team do PoE 1 i do PoE 2, teraz stają się bardzo prawdziwe.
I love having an ascendancy.
Fine.
I love having an ascendancy that we've pre-committed to, like, this is gonna change every time, because it means we can, you know, do something cool and different every single time, and players will expect that going into the next patch, you know?
And it's so just to clarify for people as well, like this isn't replacing Ascendant. This is
No, this is addition.
Scion
This
has
additional-
a second Ascendancy now.
how
Yes.
long, when did the Scion come
O
out?
kurde, Scion zostaje w tej
before
samej
I
formie,
was here.
plus dostanie
So
ascendancy.
13 years or something probably, yeah. So 13 years to get its second ascendancy, so 13 years from now,
Get
It's a third
It'll be
class.
right on par with the rest of the classes.
no, it's really cool because I really like the idea of it changing. I'm also looking forward to the idea of it. Let's say it's really good this league.
Mówiłem, że ascendantka będzie miała teraz 2 różne ascendancy. Będziemy mogli wybrać między jednym a drugim, z czego drugie będzie losowało nowe przedmioty co ligę.
That I think it's probably the way
And
to do
you
it.
you just get the cool thing where you're like, no matter what now, technically, every single expansion will have a new ascendancy class in that regard.
It's great teaser
know?
material.
Yeah, true.
And
That's one of your days done.
but also in the same sense, if it does get ruined, as people are like, you know, the
Oh,
next
well,
league
next
gets
league.
saved, you know. So, but you can see things where maybe some leagues it's better for certain archetypes. You know, might be better for
Yeah,
casters here or attackers here or summoners here or a boss.
Yeah, for the Theory Crafters, it's going to be like a new little puzzle to unpack every league, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if nothing else happens with Ascendancies.
And yeah, we often do these things where we're like, okay, this is going to require work every league. Let's just double check we're definitely keen to do that, and it has to pass the cool threshold. And in this case, yeah, it's like, yep, it's cool enough. We're doing it. It's all good.
All right. So the other thing on the skills and classes sort of side of things, this time you went for a pretty comprehensive set of new skills, buffs, support gems, even some passive changes to support the Holy Warrior Templar archetype. So I guess the downside with approaches like this of doing like a specific archetype flavored set of changes is that, you know, maybe some people ultimately won't be interested in it, but it seems like I think that's probably a worthy trade-off for the fact that you get a much more interesting experience there. Like, I'm not just like, oh yeah, one skill saw a little bit of a buff or something. It's not really that interesting to change your builds.
You can be a lot more, the upside is you can be a lot more like holistic and take a, you know, broader
Yeah.
view. It's like, okay, we're not just adding this new skill that happens to fit this archetype. We're adding, you know, a handful of new skills, a handful of new supports. You know, there's a couple of uniques that have been changed to help support this. The Guardian Ascendancy has a new pointer to help support this kind of play style. And that just immediately makes it much easier for a player who might have been interested, but also wants to play a powerful build and wants to have a well-supported build to commit to playing the new thing on League Start. You know, as opposed to if you just add a skill without any of the supporting foundation, then it's much harder. Like, it's much easier for that skill to sink rather than swim.
Yeah. That's it. That's not a lot of things contributing there. Is there something you'd like to kind of keep doing? Do you think then that kind of like you've done it a couple times in the past, but it's not ever been a super consistent trend doing this like archetype flavor?
It's certainly
For skills
easier
and things.
and has its merits, but I'd say we're probably just going to remain inconsistent in that regard.
Probably.
You know,
You'll be consistent in nothing else but being
well, it's
inconsistent.
just,
It's good.
you know, like I for 329, you know, and a thing that's come up, and probably what we'll be doing is, instead of so much a whole new archetype, it's like, let's go back and look at existing skills and how we can, instead of just numerically necessarily change them, actually rework them. Especially things like, early game as well. At some point, rolling magma becomes a little bit boring, or has its woes. We know the deal. So being able to go back and look at, there's actually been quite a high demand for people going like, can you just change up the early game, like what we're playing with, please no more rolling magma, kind of has been a lot of, I'm sure there's some people that love it, and I'm not to say we're going to like eradicate it, but ideally for the next one we'd focus less on the whole new archetype and maybe more on, reworking some of the other skills,
sure.
But that was something on our current, list of things. So we'll see how that goes. But, and that, reworking a skill can often effectively mean it's a new skill.
Like on a personal level as well, one of my favorite stuff to work on is skill and support related design. So there will definitely be more and more attention to that. Yeah. Even if it's just from me wanting to do it, in an extra few hours after my normal workday or whatever. I also have like a personal goal that every, reasonable active skill eventually gets its own transfigured version, hopefully two. That's the new transfigured this league are a step in that direction. I think they're all on ones that didn't have any transfigured variants before. Maybe there's like one that is on a skill that already had one.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Like, you feel like transfigureds are kind of like hitting the mark? They're like a thing that's worth kind of keeping updated. Yeah, you're adding more. And is it likely that like new skills come out with transfigureds right away, or is that something you add in the future?
When there's a transfigured variant that is interesting enough and also wouldn't detract from the development time of the base skill.
Yeah, that was kind of my follow-up.
Like if it's a simple twist that is an interesting one, then sure, because I think we did that with one of the wand skills in the last league that get released with a transfigured variant.
Yep.
But those are still, now they are skills in the game that are a valid active skill. Like the player might choose as their main skill, so they will eventually need to get one.
Yeah. And see, like, I guess you could be concerned that like it's eating into skill designs, but it seems like it's almost the opposite, where it's like a dumping ground for the ideas that didn't make it into a skill. You can like,
sure.
Yeah, well, this is just one little idea for a twist on this skill. It can't really be a whole new skill, so
and
it's the perfect place for it, right?
Yeah, it's also just I can't like stop myself from having a cool idea and being like, I want to do, I want to do holy hammers, but it's a big fist or something. I don't know.
Sometimes you do need to stop yourself having a cool idea sometimes, but, generally speaking.
All right. On the kind of like more balance and skill design, hand casting and channeled skills are kind of just like a rough area I just want to mention or bring up. Is it something that you're like thinking about or still kind of like tracking? I think it's maybe something we talked about a little bit in the past.
Not on the current, as a not for 328 really, in any obvious sense, but like, not to say there isn't something with exceptional supports that might come to, especially stuff we haven't even necessarily thought of, and there's obviously when we add so much stuff, there's so much unintentional usage, but like, yeah, I understand it needs maybe a bit more of a fundamental look at, still on the list again.
One of the dedicated QA for PoE 1 is very much a hand-casting enjoyer. He plays spellcasters almost every league, and the Transfigured Shock Nova is one of his favorite skills, he said, and he's definitely going to be playing that. So, hey, there's something. But yeah, it is on our radar for sure.
Cool. This is kind of like a new one that I haven't brought up before that someone asked me about. I was like, yeah, you know what? When I think about it, that's a good point. Cold skills, especially spells mainly, seem to be in a weird place where like I try to think of cold spells and I can only think of skills that have been nerfed or like were once great but aren't anymore. I think of like Winter Orb, Ice Hat. I think of like Ice Spear back in the day. I think of Cold Dot stuff. Like, yeah, there's a couple in there that are okay, but it does seem like on the whole cold spells are in a bit of a rough place at the moment. Is that something you guys have identified?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you.
Sure.
Glacial Cascade.
Not to say there aren't certainly in the more traditional case, yes, they're not holding up. There are some weird cases, but again, maybe some of this, well, I was just trying to think of the new like Frost Mage, but technically it's probably going to be based on something that isn't even cold scale.
It'll be like Archangel over again.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
skill buff.
I don't disagree with you. Honestly, it'll probably come hand in hand with hand casting, to some degree. Like it's kind of like hand casting
makes
and
sense.
spells kind of come together. So you'll probably see a bit of that at the same time.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a package deal at some point.
But yeah, I would actually agree with you. I'm not quite happy with just like.
It's just a weird realization to have. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, a lot of my old favorite skills.
And some of them are so iconic as well.
Yeah.
I miss some of those ones. It'd be cool to see a little bit of a resurgence in some of them maybe in the future. If it's anything like what the Templar stuff has gone through here, I'll be psyched in the future to replay some of that stuff because Templar has been an absolute blast. Like I've been loving running through with Static Strike and the new like extra weapons that attack with you stuff. It's
True.
awesome.
It is worth noting, alongside the new holy skills, pre-existing holy themed skills have generally been buffed or maybe
Static
just
Strike, Dominating Blow felt awesome.
Yeah, I'm like real excited to see how I can use some of these more party adjacent ones to benefit my friends with some Guardian changes. Unless the Reliquarians are all good at being a support character, I don't know. I have to see which one.
In there. You'll have to see. And,
I honestly
and then you'll have to
don't
deal with
know.
that getting changed next league, of course.
Yeah. Well, or I can make it not. No. It's good for support characters. Sorry, it's not changing next league now. I've decided.
You can't chat nerf Mark's build.
I maybe feel a little bad for content creators who are like making a build guide on Reliquarian, and
Only a little bad.
every one of those build guides has an expiration date built in.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to put an expiry date in the comments.
Best before. You might still be able to eat it after, but it's a gamble. That's funny. I did have a question about this later, but it's reached the chant levels in chat. Harbingers. I was going to ask about some quality of life stuff later, but we'll slip it in here first.
Do you
Just
want the
Harbingers
good
being
news or
mentioned.
the bad news?
Oh, bad news, please. I love
Bad news is it's gone for now.
What's gone?
Harbinger is gone for now.
Excuse me.
Którzy nie słyszeli, Harbingery zostały usunięte z gierki.
I understand that's like, look, the issue.
Can't complain about it now.
Band-Aid gone. Look, and I understand that will probably crush a decent amount of people. But there's a little bit of, it's a shadow floating with some blue. And
Yeah, I know you're not a
they're
fan
really
of blue
cool.
aliens, are you?
Well, for sure, but we want to do more. We want to do it better. And there's this unfortunate thing where often, or especially, with a, way we have to kind of develop things now, it's kind of, it has to go so it can come back better, is effectively what we're getting to here. And it will get the justice it deserves. And I'm not putting it in the in the nebulous Trial of the Ancestors bin here.
It's in a closer.
Yes, which. And that's what I'm saying, bad news, good news. It's unfortunate, but in some regards, however, it's going to come back a lot better, and it should be something that ideally people can get excited for. We were going to be way more mysterious with it and actually have the patch notes and actually we are doing that in Harbinger text, and people are going to try and derive, what does this mean? But, immersively, effectively, the Harbingers have gained the knowledge they want. They're leaving Rayclast for now, and they are going to come back, and you will find out what that means.
There's a lot of justification.
Without spoiling what's going to happen.
As we mentioned earlier, Ancient and Fracturing Orbs are in the core drop pool. Harbinger
Yes.
Uniques are also in the core drop pool.
The upgraded Harbinger Uniques are in the drop pool, core
cool.
drop pool. Yeah,
Alright.
so keeping as much as we can. But yeah, look, sometimes these things just have to happen this way.
Yeah.
It always sucks because we're just like, damn.
Also, an adjacent question that I imagine will come up: Horizon Orbs, with the way the new map items work, they don't do a thing, but they would have done a thing on Shaper Guardians and such, because Shaper Guardians are still an individual key to an individual area.
Okay.
So now Blessed Orbs will reroll your Shaper Guardians.
There you go.
So
Nice.
you still have that capability.
Good old Blessed Orbs getting a bit
Jezu.
more love.
Zrobili to, czego się baliśmy, że my będziemy sterować map, dali to po prostu na Blessed Orby. To jest zajebiste.
It'll have an
this is
overall
great
win.
news.
I agree.
This is great news. They
That's
were
how-
just weird blue floating guys that drop pocket lint. I don't know why people like
Yeah,
them so
but
much.
the loss-
a lot of the
but the loss aversion.
Your effects don't even work on them sometimes. They're weird little creatures.
Well,
some
it is
builds
probably
just don't quite
it's
work
one
on
of the most abstract things we've done for sure.
I
Weird
always
little
like it
creatures.
conceptually. I want to see what a modern take on it is, because
And also a more grounded in gothic. Again, imagine being able to do the actual art style justice and to do bosses, have bosses that aren't just big portal,
More Harbinger.
big portal thing, and
the boss was a portal.
the boss was a portal. Yes, look, good future there. We will do it right. Look, let's be real. It was half baked. and it needs to be
Yes.
done better. So
It was definitely a little bit filthy.
yeah, I know.
From an earlier
there was always
time.
going to be that bad. I was going to be. Look, the patch note was going to be way more ominous, but nonetheless, there's a band-aid to be ripped off. But
I am glad and impressed that you are.
again, we have to
Just rip the Band-Aid from that one.
brave enough to do some of these things for sure. It is important, and again, it just means only better things for the future to come in PoE 1. So.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that answers the Harbinger question, which the question that chat was probably driving at was like, could you make the splinters stack better? It's like, let me just solve that problem for you. Fine, no more splinters for you.
I was like, it's gone. You're like, wait, what's gone?
No Disneyland. That's it. We're turning around. Bam.
Yeah, it is what look. My classic response is deal with it. I guess is the answer.
Yeah, that's
But,
been dealt with thoroughly. Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. On to my next topic, which was breach and the implementation for core for that. So you showed walls being destroyed by damage, which seems like honestly would solve 99% of problems because like your damage typically is just killing everything. So I imagine the walls
Sure.
just get deleted. But you know, will they sometimes block movement skills or something like that, or is it like what's the idea here? Why do you want to keep them? Why are the walls a thing? I'm sure some people are like, why don't they just delete them?
Look, it's important to have different encounters that have different feels and different things going on, and it does achieve, I wouldn't say it's overly complicated, but it does achieve a relatively unique vibe. And the important thing is when a league goes core, especially, is that there is choice into what type of content you want to do. There are people that like it. There are, right? And that's fine. And you know, there are now many tools if you don't want to. You can deal with it by either making it easier and making it something you don't mind, or on the other hand, you can turn it off if you're just like, get that out of there. But honestly, also, it shouldn't be bad. So
intrusive is the word I would use. Like
Yes.
we want it to feel meaningfully different in terms of how you engage with the mechanic, but we also don't want it to be intrusive and unpleasant. So, you know, we've like shrunk the encounters, shrunk the walls. They destroy when you're damaged, or they destroy when they're damaged rather. You know, we were just discussing earlier, like if this is still not enough, then there's other avenues we can pursue, like
Yeah,
making
you
the
were-
radius you destroy them in a bit larger, stuff like
Talking
that.
to you about it earlier, you were pretty clear that like you literally don't want it to be annoying in any way. So
no, it shouldn't be.
and like another thing I don't think you touched on there was like the idea that like it's also supposed to be a way that you can kind of scale the encounter on an encounter by encounter basis, which is something you want to have sometimes.
And it's like, there's a little bit like if the walls are our problem, it's not that big. That's fixable. That's actually kind of easy to fix.
Yeah.
Now we probably should have done that mid-league.
Fair.
Whoops.
Do you think that'll be happening? Do you think that'll be happening? Because that was another question I saw people like. Do you think you guys will have more ability to do stuff after kind of like the first 2 weeks of the league now moving forwards with the way the teams are structured now? Like obviously, you have to work on the new content at a certain point, and that starts almost immediately. But what do you reckon?
Yeah, it kind of depends. Look, our main goal once a league comes out is to solve problems, and we generally try and make sure that's the case. But yeah, generally then it's like, do you want to upgrade the league with new content versus make the next expansion? And that gets pretty hard to allocate resources between.
I don't think the new content thing is probably worthwhile ultimately, but just the continued problem
we
solving,
will
I guess.
definitely have more resources for solving issues.
Great.
That is 100%
That's the main
case.
thing
Yeah.
ultimately, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, like the keepers thing, it's like, okay, the walls, if there's still a problem, just tell us. We'll just keep fixing it. We can test as much as we can test, but obviously people have different levels of what's acceptable and what's not. We try and think of all these, but like, look, we've made a whole bunch of changes. It's going in. Tell us how you feel afterwards, and we'll just address it if it's still a problem. Like that's the actual
Great.
straightforward solution. Hopefully it's not, we're gonna, I mean, even today we're like, let's bump up the burn radius a bit as well, just to make it a bit less of a problem. They're now damageable, they're now smaller, hives are now smaller, the walls are smaller as well. And again, you can turn them off. You can just run unstable breaches, of which now it's an Atlas tree. You can have many of them, and you can have multiple active at once,
I was going to ask about
like
that, 'cause
Breach had before.
That's an old breach thing. You'd have like a bunch of flash breaches overlapping that wasn't available in Keepers. That is a thing again now. That's
yeah.
possible.
Yep.
Oh, great. That's good news.
Yep. You can just run around,
good fun.
opening circles.
So obviously there's a way of like kind of being like, oh yeah, I want to see just the circles or more of the circles or something like that. Is there a bunch of them?
The whole goal was to keep that right? We
Right, yeah.
You know, it would have been easy to just only have the wall encounters. No one,
Yeah.
I don't know if people would have been very happy about that, but like the point was, like people loved Breach for what Breach was. We wanted to retain that as the map to map. So yeah, you can have multiple unstable breaches. You can just run into multiple of them at
to rzecz,
once and
kurwa.
just start killing all the hordes of monsters. You know, that's just what it is. It's just that, like, you know, we then get to have this new epic storyline set up, do more with it in the future. You know, what's Chiyola gonna do? Where's Zoff and Unatol? Where are they right now?
You were saying something about expanding on the Breach story and Breach Lords, but it's not like you're going to do Breach 3 next league. So, like,
Or
what's that? How does that
have
even
the
happen?
Harbingers taken them? Like, what's going on?
Oh, you reckon it's a blend in with another league or something, maybe? Huh?
No, I'm talking. This is my.
No
I'm
way.
talking madness.
Okay.
But you know, the point being, like, there's cool things to set up here, epic new bosses, be it pinnacles or otherwise, to come in the future, and you know, like I understand people have a bit of attachment to a lot of this older content, but like
The old domains.
these
and
are
Breach
literal
Lords.
old player characters wearing microtransactions that are bosses, and
They're
it
not
just
to your
is-
current standards,
yeah,
are
it's
they?
not what we do
Just like
anymore,
Harbinger, they got
you know?
get out of
You
here.
need bosses that rip off their own head when the fight starts, not
Not recolored
Yeah.
floaty guys.
not like. Here's some armor set. You're not red enough. Let's dunk you in red paint. All right, now you're a breach lord. You know,
Yes.
And every new unique we make going forward could have a Foulborn variant.
Oh, yeah.
or be on the Reliquarian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
wow.
That too.
Oh man. Well,
Yeah,
be
the
Rusty and
Foulborn
Demonstration
uniques.
YouTube channel.
Proszę.
Foulborn uniques were pretty cool.
Yeah, Foulborn uniques were, I think, a big win from that. I was going to ask about that in relation to the tree. So Foulborn uniques, something to keep expanding on then.
Yep, the new
It's a banger.
uniques. Some of the new uniques in Mirage have Foulborn variants.
No kidding, that's awesome.
O, już dodają
Great.
Foulborn
That's happening
uniki.
right away then.
To jest
fantastic. On that note then, so the tree is staying, and I think people are concerned in various ways, but people both want it to be still rewarding in some way, but people also don't want it to necessarily be pooping out all of the best items and
Yeah.
to the extent that it was. So in what way is it going core, and in what way is it changing?
You know, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I think that you know, we want it to still be good, but we don't want it to be good at generating every kind of item. So I think
Right.
it can no longer make weapons or quivers.
Interesting.
So it can still do the armor, the jewelry, and obviously keeps the Foulborn uniques.
It can make Foulborn unique weapons. To be clear, it's rare
the
weapons.
rare
that-
for
Just
the rare
rares, okay.
equipment. Yeah. So limited the pools of rare equipment it can produce.
Interesting. So it has a more specific role now, which I like for league mechanics.
Again, like that's a general thing where if one
Yeah,
thing can do
cool.
everything, then why do anything else? And then you have the like, if everything can do everything, then what does picking a league even mean? I mean, it's the
This is
same
a-
discussion with thing like fossils, right? You know, which I believe we've also made a change with now. Fossils are exclusive, or at least way
I was gonna
more
ask about the
exclusively
Delve
from
game.
Delve.
If we did our due diligence fully, then fossils should only be coming from Delve now.
Ooh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's
So
good.
we're kind of trying to make sure we're actually confining what it makes a league special to what makes a league special,
Right,
and not
yeah.
just letting it seep in everywhere. So yeah, that with the tree, you know, no weapons for rare weapons at least is aiming in that direction.
Is it like a major power nerf to the creation of jewelry and armor?
It's been tuned down. Yeah.
6-link
I saw the
rate
6-linking
is
thing was
down.
dropped down a bit. Yeah. Is it like 60 fusings instead of like 150 now? or
Yeah, I
something?
think it was 1 in 10 items are 6 links before, which was a little bit extreme. So yeah,
It was printing
there's
out.
a balance pass as well, of course. Yes,
Yeah.
because again, it's part of that. Like, how can item drops be good if this is just doing that? You know, so they're at odds with one another. But also now that it's one of many optional leagues in the end game, it doesn't need to be doing everything. You know, as good as it was doing. So.
I suspect it's still pretty good from my kind of like cursory glance over things. It looked like the fracturing was still there, I think, right? Like, so you guys are planning on...
Andrew
believe
did all
so.
of the specific adjustments
okay.
for this, so I'm not actually sure off the top
Yeah,
of my head.
I'm sure it's
This is why we need a bigger couch. We need Andrew here.
How do we do that?
The problem
True story.
is, always the uncertainty with, this is ideally why we'll have Andrew here in the future. The uncertainty is like, Andrew could have changed stuff literally 10 minutes ago.
Yeah,
that we
that's
don't
true.
know
You're
about.
right.
You know,
I mean,
someone in QA might have found something that he
Yeah.
needed to address.
He's, you know, and I'd like to reassure people, like, the development doesn't stop at the live stream, at the announcement, you know what I mean? They're up there, upstairs right now making changes. So, you know, we can only be so certain about, you know, without everyone here who's able to talk about it. But like, we're 99% sure on everything. But
If I do my job well, you guys come up with some new changes that you go do after this too. So
yeah.
the
Well,
idea.
you're very good at coming and getting us to make a few last minute changes beforehand. I like it actually.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
I like it too. I get to do what I want. I think the last thing was the Hive Fortresses in Breach. They were initially fun, but they definitely became less so over time. I think just like a lack of variety. They got quite time consuming, and they had some issues with difficulty and reward scaling, where like you couldn't quite scale them up all that much ultimately. I think like they scale with map mods, but I guess a lot of PoE 1's scaling power now comes from like Scarabs and
Mówisz coś o drzewku, czy tylko to, że wywalili bronię i ten? Czy jest coś jeszcze dodatkowego?
That, and that's not to say there hasn't been.
I definitely saw one, which is the juicing buttons.
Yeah, there's a whole...
Oh, yeah, sure.
The main thing that would impact that is there's a whole suite now of Scarabs and Atlas passives that are related to, the Keeper's mechanic.
True.
And
cool,
those
right?
will apply to your Hive Fortresses, and so you can get things like the Enrage the Swarm buttons, which
Nice.
I don't know how many skills you get over the course of a Hive encounter, but if you click the Enrage the Swarm button every
Click them
time,
all.
I really hope you have a good build.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Okay, that's
I
good.
think it is all most like primarily tangential changes like Atlas Tree and systems like that now that they're core, as opposed to baseline changes. But not entirely sure. You never know. Andrew could be doing something right now. So we'll see. But it should, when these things go core, and now you have an Atlas Tree, and now you have a set of Scarabs, and things generally get a little bit crazy with them, and you can have a lot of agency and choice, and it gives us now way more tools to be able to give players choice, so that if someone likes it one way or the other, we can add that, and so if they're not right, we'll make them right by adding different things and interactions and stuff. It's part of the benefit of the Atlas Tree and the Scarab system, is that we get to do that with pretty much everything. We get to have 5 different ways of playing every league, and that's awesome.
I'm already excited to, if it goes core, which is not a decision we'll make for a while, but, come up with Atlas passives for Mirage or Scarabs for Mirage.
You're already starting to think about what you can do. It's a
Yeah,
good sign,
have stuff in my back pocket.
Okay,
for-
cool.
Half the size and do something, double the size and do something. There's like so many different options there. Yeah.
This is a Warpro, because I'm realizing we just haven't even like talked about the core Endgame. Well, it's like, yeah, you guys redid the Atlas,
Yeah.
by the way. We haven't even got to that yet.
We put a lot in this one.
So, the change to map, I call it that because it's just like, it's not June's map anymore, it's just map. Just kind of made me giggle the first time I see it. So, what's, the quality of life around this, for one, I like that you led with that as part of the showcases, like, here's all the quality of life bonuses that this means. Oh, yes.
I mean, it's a pretty big deal. I know that there's this immediate, and even internally, like you have this like, yeah, this is what we're doing, and people are like, what? Hold on, there's like a shock factor, like wait, but then you get to explain like, here's all the benefits we get from it. Here's the bloat we get to take out, I like to call it, because you no longer need this and this and this to achieve these different goals. So like, it simplifies things down in a really good way from a UX standpoint, and also a trade standpoint. And from completing your Atlas standpoint, like all of these things just become so much more clean and simplified, and you now don't need like 3, for example, you don't need favored maps anymore. A lot of what was special about Kirax missions, or good about Kirax missions, was helping you complete the Atlas. That's now redundant.
You get to trim so much fat. Like,
it's gone, by the way. There's
Harbinger orbs.
Yep.
You got rid of chisels at the same time as well. Finally,
just base
after all
chisels.
these
Just
years.
base chisels, by the way. Maven's chisel still exists for clarification, but it's 1 chisel for 20 quality, just to be.
Oh, nice, good.
Yeah.
They were just so much. They were just like pointless busy work. I always felt that way. I was like, stupid chisels, I hate them.
You do get bonus quantity in your maps based on the completion of your Atlas. So by the time you fully complete your Atlas, you have actually slightly more quantity than what chisels would have previously provided.
Yeah, I know. You gotta like make sure they're like, oh, it's all right, guys. We didn't take that 20% away from you.
That's 25 now.
25. Right.
Well, and of course, there's Voidstone mods which apply to your whole Atlas. You've got the
whole Egan system.
Yeah, you've got
That's the big one.
and you got more Atlas passive points than before. So there's lots of
I
like
think 7 or 8 more.
It's so nice to be able to get rid of there's this thing where you just can't add infinite systems to the app map device. It was kind of getting crazy, and I know we obviously got rid of the master buttons a way back. Now we've got rid of more of the stuff. It's getting way more simple, and it's just the process of using the map device, putting in your map, and running a map just being and rolling that map being as clean as possible.
Yeah.
And then being able to
3 clicks instead of I got 2 dozen. So.
and then being able to, now, I mean, I'm excited for the future here, but being able to interact with your Atlas as a physical space with mods and the stuff like that is really cool. I am the kind of player, I think you are too, who likes to run. I like to run many different maps.
I like having, sort of short to midterm goals in the end game, which is one of the reasons why I'm really excited for the whole Egan system, because it's now I know I'm going to run these 7 maps, and that'll give me a reward at the end, and also increasing juice as I do so. I don't know. I was going to then go into how you can sort of bisect them and stuff, but I feel like that might be getting too into the weeds.
No, I did want to ask you about that because I didn't realize that from first watching it. It's pretty funny. I saw the blobs and I was like, oh no, here we go again.
No, there's no Elder Ring management.
You have to make the Elder eat the shape of the blob. Not fully.
No.
You have to make sure it stays alive in its digestive tract. That's how you get the optimal.
No. The loop here is you put the blob. Okay, we have a better name than blob now, but that is the internal name.
Blob's a good name.
You put the blob on the Atlas, then you run the maps in the blob. There's no I have to micromanage it to make sure that it's doing the exact right thing, and if I run the wrong map, then it's all ruined, and I have to spend 7 hours fixing it.
Especially because you can just take your map and just pod it. If you just do them, right? You don't have to be I don't have maps to do this part of the blob.
Which is amazing.
You just have the map item.
That was really
go wherever you want.
With those
and that is
systems.
Also, to be clear, you can still go wherever you have freedom of choice to pick whatever map it is you want to run. You use the map item on Mesa, do it. You use the map item on Strands, do it. Whatever.
You even made that keystone, so you don't want to do different maps in the blob. You could still do the blob. It'll just do it randomly.
Yeah. So I guess to get into those weeds is so you say you have a blob that's a long, thin, map line of 7 maps.
Yep.
If I run the map directly in the middle, I'll then have 2 smaller blobs of 3 each, right? One of them will be removed.
Dies.
And so you can more quickly clear the blob off your Atlas if you just care about the Templar Vault reward.
Yeah, so
but you get a little bit less juice if you do that, because every map that you finish juices all the other maps.
Yes. Oh, that's a really cool
So you have this sort of tension, this push-pull between, do I want to get the maximum amount of value out of my astrolabe that I used, or do I want to get to the vault as quickly as possible?
Yeah, so if you run all of the outer areas of the blob and shrink it into the one last map, it'll be a super juice map.
It'll be very
Or you just
juiced.
cut it in half a couple times, and then you rush to the end scenario.
Which the main motivation behind that decision is it means that every astrolabe has a sort of minimum value.
Okay.
Maybe the meta shakes out so that people don't really use the Blight astrolabe very much for its juicing for whatever reason.
Right.
Then that ends up being okay, well, I can buy those en masse and then go just blitz through them, do 2 or 3 blights and 2 or 3 maps to get to the vault and get that
the
reward.
rush one.
Yeah, so there's those subtle tactics.
Clever, yeah. And
wanna spam the
non-annoying.
vaults.
This would be annoying if you had to trace down the specific maps and micromanage it, and it was moving around on you.
This is something I haven't explicitly discussed with Mark, so maybe he'll disagree with me. But I think what's really important about these Atlas sort of effects, I guess, these geographical events, is that they're transient. You don't want something that is something you're going to have to manage for basically indefinitely. You want something that you engage with, it has an end, then you go again.
Term sort of
this is a really good system for making short to mid-term goals.
Okay.
Well, that is it achieves that goal very well. So yeah, good.
Awesome.
Just also, by the way, his blight thing was a hypothetical. I know people.
Sure, I have no idea what the players will think of what there will be an astrolabe that is the cheapest one, right? I don't know which one.
I looked at you and saw in the corner of my eye, blight nerf, and I was like, no, wait. Well, there might be a blight
truth to every.
There might be a
I'm pulling
blight
on my
nerf.
microphone here. I'm getting too into it.
There might be a blight nerf, but
I don't know. If Andrew was here, he would know.
I had a question for later. I was just Blight's a bit buggy and laggy. You guys looking at that at some point?
You're not wrong.
Yep.
Yes. But it's just a limitation of that's what happens when you spawn that many things.
Yeah.
you just get too many things, and guess what? Nothing can handle that. So, but that's the kind of thing where it's like, no, they're going to remove half the stuff, and it's like that's part of the fun. And but yeah, like look, if
I mean, you had a Blight Ravage map, so you obviously don't. You're okay with a certain amount of that.
there's a little bit of crazy, sure, but like the answer might end up being like, you know, less objects, but objects are more valuable, you know, stuff like that. It's just a matter of that's a performance optimization issue more so than a balance problem in this regard. Not to say there isn't also a balance problem. There might, you know, maybe, but you know, the goal primarily there is to make the performance not such a horrendousness, and the only real way to do that is to reduce the amount of things being spawned and increase the value of those things to then compensate so that it isn't necessarily a nerf. It's like not a you know, often there's like it's an engine thing, or like there's a, you know, back-end performance thing you can do. And maybe there is something you can optimize here, but honestly, this one is just a straight up like what they're going like, what do you expect to happen when you have this many things on screen at one time? And I'm like, I want all of my frame rate, and but then they're like, yeah. So often there's like, is it an engine problem? Is it a like, you know, programming optimization issue on the more like back end or instance? And then it's like, yeah, often sometimes it's just the game designers need to calm down.
Be a little more disciplined.
Yes.
Tier 17s, I know you had a personal gripe or issue with those, as you were like, you know, you designed some of that stuff. You felt personally responsible, Octavian, for some of the issues that came out of Tier 17 modifiers and the economic aspects of those. I was pleased to see that it seems like Tier 17s have been pretty much, they're pretty much gone. There's this new Nightmare Maps system that seems to be tackling a lot of the issues with that. So can you kind of like explain how that works then?
Well, one of the goals with we've done a lot of little changes. Well, some of them bigger than others. We've done a lot of changes. And one of the main driving goals was to make it so that T17s don't feel like simultaneously this access to Uber bosses and also just the absolute best pinnacle thing. You have to be doing this if you want to be competitive in the economy, right? Because there's 4 or 5 layouts for T17 maps, and
it was so restrictive.
If your end game choices are there's 5 different maps you can do, but really 2 of them are better than the others, or maybe even one of them is, and so it just feels like
other maps.
Exactly.
Barrels.
So yeah, sure, barrels. And so one of the things right off the bat is I believe they now share the same mod pool as originator maps. Correct?
Yes.
I'm 90% confident on that.
Yes, they do.
Which helps bring them in line with originator maps.
Yeah.
And they are also, if you're eagle-eyed, you may have noted that they are on the outer corners of the atlas and not within the inner quadrants, which means they're not affected by the new Egan system.
They're separate.
Yeah, so if you want to be maximizing every layer of juice in the game, you are inherently not going to be in one of these new nightmare maps. You are going to be running originator maps within the Atlas quadrants to leverage the Egan system.
And you're choosing between the two potentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, what result? Ultimately, they're still decent to run. You know, they're not like just ultra trash. However, they're more towards the boss.
Yeah.
Killing the boss, getting the boss keys.
That was the idea, right? To make them an access gate for...
And they're more deterministic in that regard as well. Each of the individual nightmare maps is associated with particular Uber boss fragments.
Right.
So that's kind of to help give them more identity in that direction of it's the access point to an Uber boss.
Yep. Awesome.
It should be... It's definitely just much easier now if you want a specific Uber boss to go and kill that specific Uber boss, because you have the nightmare key is... it's a lot of keywords. It's like keywords, but you know, it's like you get a specific map item, so to speak. You can run any of them, and then each of them generally are better at target farming a certain pinnacle. So, you know, choice is up to you, and they don't have that like this is the best juice in the game problem that they were, which is what was happening before. And so, you know,
they were a bit of a chaos sink before. Is that something you're like worried about or monitoring? Like the idea of
we're concerned on chaos on a couple levels. One is that, and the second is, you know, with no Kirak crafts, you know, there's chaos sync. So, but as we said, we're doing a bunch of changes around currency items and with the whole ground.
Czyli te 17 zostają, ale są odcięte od całego innego juice'u, ja dobrze rozumiem? Mają swój własny juice. I w sumie te 17 będą dalej jako nightmare.
Won't just end up with the like absolute infinite chaos, but I can see a world where yes, there's going to be like chaos will become less valuable this league. Like, I don't see how I never can be certain with these things, but I'm like, I have a decently high level of certainty unless I'm missing something here that without those two sinks, you're just going to end up with lower value out of chaos for sure.
Yeah, divest your chaos portfolio now based on comments on the Q&A.
I am curious if us saying that we anticipate that will have any sort of impact on the actual early price of chaos.
It'll have an impact for sure.
Well,
right?
We'll see.
Yeah.
When it comes to economies, feels over reels, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm telling you now, your chaos are worthless.
Yeah, we're moving. We're back to GCPs. Let's go.
Who knows?
The trade currency.
One thing, since it was just tangentially with the Keurig missions being gone, there's a lot of mechanics that are capable of doubling or tripling up. So something like, say, I don't know, settlers settlers loot objects, like the mineable things.
Yeah.
So in most of those cases, I believe all, maybe most, the base scarab that adds that content just adds more of it now, because previously you could get more of it from the map device craft, and we wanted to keep the max you could get in a map the same.
Yep.
Nice. You've been making sure that people don't feel like they've been robbed with these changes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Got to be done.
It's just not what we want to do. If it happens, it's on accident. Generally, and if it isn't,
the point was to kill the busy work, and I'm here for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Chiseling maps isn't fun.
I've been saying this for years. I feel very vindicated right about now. Okay. Originator and memory maps on the other end of things had these weird pedal powers. They're weird and awkward. I don't know when to use them. I have to read it. It's too much text. What are you guys doing with the pedal powers, man?
I mean, they're gone. Some of the benefits they caused are now on the alters at the when doing the, speaking of keywords, memory strands.
Yeah, we were going through this the other day. Like memory thread, strand, fragments,
strands, I think, are the thing of the items.
Memory strands, memory tears. There's one of those.
I can't remember.
So yeah, when running those, you can get them on as alter enhancements, and so the alters are kind of better. But yeah, no,
Also,
they were annoying.
The memory threads are, I think, if I'm using the right term, the things you use to create Egan's fruit story and kill the bosses to help Zana.
This is a problem.
Or to follow Zana. The memory lines things. Those are itemized now. And you can thus trade them to other players. You can save them to use for later. You know, there was previously a problem with where if you were partway through one of those and you got tired of running it and you went back to running a normal Atlas, now you're just kind of locked until you go complete it, right?
Yeah.
So itemization helps avoid that.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you get FOMO because you're like, oh, no.
Buy them, you can sell them, you can farm a specific one, you can... Yeah.
And
just better.
That means it's also not like, because this whole thing was like a weird thing. I don't even know like how it activated half the time, and it was like in a separate map device.
Yeah,
guy.
It feels more connected to a choice you're making now, rather than just
it's
the thing.
It's all the one thing, and you get to make that specific decision. Fantastic. We touched on Delve. That's good. I think we addressed that one pretty well. So on that one then, we have a few extra just random unsorted questions.
Okay.
I actually I don't normally include a ruthless question. Sorry, everyone, just block your ears for a second. One person asked me a ruthless question that I thought was actually intriguing. I thought I'd ask now. So in ruthless, you can't hide items on the loot filter, which I was surprised to learn. Made me laugh. Does it have to be like that?
It's the idea was if that with ruthless, really what a lot of what ruthless is a it's meant to mean that you don't have the whole items on the ground that don't really matter.
Yeah. That was the vision.
And so the idea was like, if you have to use one, then we've failed. That being said, I don't think that those I would be okay with enabling this, and I'll talk about it. And the idea really is that what I think loot filters can do very, very well. Well, I don't think that whether or not a player wants to hide an item, we should make them not want to hide the item in the filter. Like, that's the failure, not no, we're going to make you unable to hide items. So if we're succeeding in that regard,
you don't need that answer,
then
right?
Ideally when they're making the filter, they wouldn't have any hide lines, right? That's us doing it right. So the fact that there are items wanting to be hidden isn't doing it right. But more so, the thing the filter does really, really, really well is improve the formatting, highlighting, what's escalating levels of what's
Dopamine
important,
levels, yeah.
all of that stuff very, very well. And as I'm saying, these things don't have to be at odds with one another. Like, you can do the drops right and still have filters.
Yeah.
I think me from 2 years ago wouldn't have given the same answer to that, by the way. Certainly, it is a philosophy I've changed. Like,
Nice.
I might have even been me that said no filters and ruthless. I don't remember. So like, I'm certainly okay with it. And I think of that point where people are going, I'm going to hide all this and this and this.
Dobra, to kiedy jakieś się kończy, jakie to jest długie w ogóle. Ja myślę, że to będzie z godziny trwało. No tutaj się raczej nas nie obchodzi, nie? Aż 6-7. Bardzo długi to Q&A, ale jest spoko, naprawdę. Jestem pod dużym wrażeniem ilości informacji.
To play, but end of the day, I would expect it to be. I don't want to have a specific philosophy there because I think that
Zobaczcie, że tutaj nie padają słowa pomyślimy o tym, myślimy o tym, może to zrobimy, tylko są konkrety dawane. Typu ten pierwsza akcja, gdzie mówi, że o tym będą rozmawiać, to Octavian powiedział, to już zrobiliśmy. Jakby.
of ours. So.
On the random questions, so you can't pause on the options menu, but you can pause if you open the passive screen first. It's kind of weird. It's like, why is there no like dedicated pause button? You have to open.
There's a specific.
We are implementing that.
Great.
It's meant to be you can pause, do whatever you want, and then unpause at your leisure. Not to say that the passive tree won't still pause, because full screen interfaces will still pause, but there was a specific options thing where. It was honestly weird when you had like a panel that's just left aligned, like pausing you in the options. I know some people want it, but then also on the other hand, like having your game paused and then you're changing kind of graphic settings also kind of gives you this thing where you like, or when you're changing certain options, you then can't appreciate the changes. But ultimately, the real answer is implement this pausing system properly.
Yeah.
For both games, mind you. It's on our current queue.
Okay, great.
So which game gets it first, then the other game will get it. Is kind of honestly the race condition at this point.
I've got a couple rapid fire ones. How does Reliquarian work with combination with actual uniques? Has that been like tested? Like Widow Hail, for example?
Anywhere where a stat isn't purely Boolean, it should function.
So if it looks like it can stack, it should start.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's for you guys to figure out.
100%.
Oh yeah, that's our
That's their
responsibility.
problem.
100% increased and 100% increased. You got 200% increased. Yep.
Yeah, great. With the change making fossils only come from Delve, can synthesis maps be the source of synth items again?
I mean, can. We'd have to look into that.
Sounds like it hasn't been considered
I'd
yet.
have to
but
look into that.
I'm
Can
not
be
against
now.
it. It's not. It's at this point of the week to go, it's unlikely to be something that makes it into 328. But that is a very good question.
Co za
It has been seed. The seed has been
Yeah,
planted.
it's in there now.
I have my personal quality of life question here. So, like, I'm just going to ask this in a very certain way here. Like, could we just have like a tiny little area where we can pick up just only the exact same specific currency types? Just, like shards, life force, splinters, just stuff where there's no decision making. I know, because you want to make decisions about what items you're picking up and what items you're not picking up. It's part of the gameplay. I understand that. So just items that have no decision making where you're going to pick them all up anyway. It's just about reducing the number of clips. And I know you want a bit of a weight to them. Hold on. You want a little bit of a weight. You want a satisfying experience in picking those up, right? That's really meaningful. I understand. I feel that. I believe that. But I think, like, something is diminished and lost when you have to click 8 times to pick up that light force and you, like, misclick and your character walks out of the way and stuff like that. What if when you pick it up, it goes, oh, so satisfying. It just gets slurped into your character with this cool, like, animation or something like that. What about something like that?
I was going to say, I would sooner merge them on the floor before doing that.
That was my follow-up question. Since I know we can't have that, it's written on the page. Since I know we can't have that, is there any thoughts on better shard stacking?
But look, honestly, that's I'll tell you what, I'll bring that up again today. But without being able to have a good yarn with Jonathan on that one, we're not. It wouldn't even matter.
Scripted encounter.
When you have things like, well, there are certain levels of philosophical things that are obviously from the ancient times, as I now call them. Since while we were talking about 27 expansions ago, and there's things that are probably 27 before that. Well, you know, there are these things that you can't just make up on the spot for sure. You know,
Yeah.
I'll bring. You know, you come upstairs and bring it up,
Okay.
and then we'll see where it goes. And then
do
you can be the hero
I'll do it.
or the villain. No, I'll be the villain. You be the hero. But you know, we'll go up and discuss it afterwards.
Yeah,
and
I'm
let's
just
see
trying
where
to
we go.
get a like a bit, little tiny, just a little foot in the door here, maybe. Just like plant the seed, maybe. Just
Hey, take advantage of the things while you're here.
I'll do it. I'll do it. Just point me where the direction I need to go.
Now, just come and discuss it with Jonathan and I legitimately, and
will.
we'll see where it goes.
All right, that's what
I'm going to say there's a low chance on that changing, by the way.
I'm still going to plant the seed because I didn't ever think asynchronous trade would happen. Or
I don't want to ruin your
so.
hopes, but yeah, I'd say low.
never know.
But yeah, I mean, with
10
how
years?
much stuff is changing lately, like even just the base maps and everything, who the heck even knows nowadays?
I know. I'll
it's
grind you
console.
down over the next 10 years, just like asynchronous trade, right? It's happening eventually, one day.
All right.
Thank you both very much for a good chat and Q&A session. And Octavian, for the first time here, this was great. Hope you enjoyed yourself. I
For sure.
love these things. And
Going to do it again?
I would like to.
Yes, you are doing
doing
it.
it. You're doing it again. This is
You're doing it again. Yeah, hopefully we get Andrew on here next time.
Bigger couch.
You know,
Be back next time for a bigger Q&A, bigger couch, more hours, more of us really.
You just
needing
keep
to go
doing
to
that
the
every
bathroom
time until
afterwards.
half the company is here.
yeah,
It really, yes. All right.
Might
Thank
get
you
a-
very much,
yeah.
folks. See you later.
all good. Thanks heaps. Appreciate it, everyone.